The morning mist clung to the Montana hills as Marcus Thompson drove his pickup toward town. At 34, the rancher had made this same drive every Tuesday for over a decade, a routine as predictable as sunrise. But this Tuesday would shatter that routine forever. As Marcus approached the abandoned gas station on Highway 2, something caught his eye near the old pumps. He slowed his truck, squinting through the windshield. What he saw made his blood run cold. A baby, no more than 9 months old, sat chained to the rusted post of a gas pump. A short chain connected a small cuff around the child's ankle to the metal post. The infant was wrapped in a tattered yellow blanket, whimpering softly in the morning chill. Marcus slammed on his brakes and jumped out of his truck. As he approached, he saw a piece of cardboard propped against the pump with 4 words scrawled in black marker. "Feed if you dare." The baby looked up at Marcus with large, dark eyes that seemed far too aware for such a young child. Despite the terrible circumstances, the infant appeared unharmed, thin and neglected, but alive. "Hey there, little one," Marcus whispered, kneeling down. The baby reached out with one small hand, and Marcus felt his heart break. He pulled out a cell phone, but had no signal in this remote area. Looking around the desolate location, he saw no sign of whoever had done this horrible thing. Marcus examined the chain, secured with a small but sturdy padlock. He returned to his truck for bolt cutters from his toolbox. After several attempts, the lock snapped. The moment the baby was free, Marcus gently lifted the small form into his arms. The child was lighter than expected, clearly malnourished. As he held the baby, Marcus found a second note tucked in the blanket, written in different handwriting. "His name is Danny. He's 9 months old. I can't take care of him anymore. The people looking for us will hurt him if they find us together. Please help him. I'm sorry." Below was a phone number with an unfamiliar area code. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. Someone was running from danger and had made the desperate choice to abandon their child rather than risk his safety. "Come on, Danny," Marcus said, carrying the baby to his truck. "Let's get you somewhere safe." As he drove toward his ranch, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that finding Danny was only the beginning of something much larger and more dangerous than he could imagine. The warning echoed in his mind. "Feed if you dare." What exactly was he daring by choosing to help this abandoned child? At his ranch, Marcus called his neighbor Elena Rodriguez, a mother of 3 who would know how to care for a baby. Within 20 minutes, she arrived with formula and supplies. "Where exactly did you find him?" Elena asked, expertly feeding Danny. Marcus told her about the abandoned gas station, the chain, and the conflicting notes. Elena's expression grew increasingly troubled. "This is serious, Marcus. Someone is either very sick or very dangerous." She examined Danny carefully. "He's dehydrated and hungry, but not abused. Just neglected." As Elena changed Danny's diaper, she froze. "Marcus, look at this." On Danny's back, below his left shoulder blade, was a small, intricate mark that looked like some kind of symbol or brand. "What is that?" Marcus asked, leaning closer. "Someone put that there deliberately. This isn't natural." Elena's voice was grim. "This baby has been marked somehow." Before they could discuss it further, Marcus's phone rang. The caller ID showed the same area code from the note. "You found him," came a young woman's whispered voice. "You found Danny." "Who is this?" Marcus asked. "I'm Lisa, his mother. Is he safe?" Marcus could hear desperation in her voice. "He's fine. But what the hell is going on? Why was your baby chained up?" "I didn't chain him there. They did. They're using him to get to me." Lisa's voice broke. "They want something from me, and they figured out threatening Danny was the best way to make me cooperate." "Who are they?" "People who do terrible things. I got involved with the wrong person, and now they're using my baby as leverage." Elena leaned close to the phone. "The police can protect you and Danny." Lisa's laugh was bitter. "The police can't protect us from these people. Look, I can't stay on this phone long. They might trace it." "What's the mark on Danny's back?" Marcus demanded. The silence stretched before Lisa spoke, barely audible. "It's how they track their property. Danny belongs to them too. That mark means they'll never stop looking for him. The line went dead. Marcus and Elena stared at each other in stunned silence. Danny, oblivious to the conversation, was playing contentedly with Elena's keys. Before they could process what they'd learned, the sound of vehicles approaching came from outside. Marcus moved to the window and felt his blood run cold. 3 black SUVs were turning into his driveway. "Elena, take Danny and go out the back," Marcus said, checking his rifle. "Get to town and call Sheriff Martinez." "What about you?" "I'm buying you time." As the SUVs stopped in front of his house, Marcus realized his quiet life had just become something dangerous, something that would test every principle he'd ever held about right and wrong. Through the window, he could see men in expensive suits getting out. These weren't local police. These were the people Lisa had been running from, and they'd come for Danny. The men approaching Marcus's house moved with military precision, but their expensive suits marked them as corporate soldiers, people who solved problems with money, influence, and, when necessary, violence. A tall, silver-haired man in his 50s approached the front porch alone, while his men took positions around the house. "Mr. Thompson," came a cultured voice through the door. "My name is Vincent Cordero. I believe you have something that belongs to my organization." Marcus positioned himself beside the door, rifle ready. "I don't have anything that belongs to you. You discovered a child this morning, a very special child. That child needs to be returned to his family." "His family abandoned him like an animal," Marcus replied angrily. "Mr. Thompson, you seem decent. This doesn't have to change that." Cordero's voice carried subtle threat. "I'm offering substantial compensation for your cooperation. More money than you'd make ranching for 10 years. Marcus heard Elena's truck starting behind the house. Danny was getting away. "The child isn't here," Marcus said truthfully. "I see. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to ask you to open this door. I give you my word no harm will come if you cooperate. And if I don't, then my associates will open it for you." Marcus made a quick decision. He couldn't defend against 6 armed men indefinitely. He opened the door slowly, rifle visible but not threatening. Cordero entered with casual confidence. "Nice place. Peaceful. I can see why you'd want to protect it. What do you want with a baby?" Cordero settled into Marcus's armchair uninvited. "The child represents a significant investment. His mother was involved in research that produced valuable intellectual property. The child carries genetic markers essential to continuing that research." Marcus felt sick. Human experimentation. Medical breakthroughs that could save millions, Cordero corrected. The child's identification mark ensures proper medical care. Left with amateurs, he could suffer complications. "What complications?" "The kind requiring immediate intervention from specialists working his case since birth," Cordero said cryptically. "Every minute away from proper supervision increases risk of permanent damage." Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. "Elena's number." "Answer it," Cordero said. "The child's life may depend on decisions made in the next few minutes." "Marcus," Elena's panicked voice came through. "Danny's sick, really sick. He had some kind of seizure and won't wake up. We're at the emergency room." Marcus felt the floor drop out. He looked at Cordero, who watched with apparent sympathy. "The complications I mentioned," Cordero said quietly. "That child needs specialized treatment only our team can provide." Marcus realized he was trapped. If Cordero was telling the truth, Danny would die without their intervention. If lying, he was about to hand over an innocent child to people who saw him as property. "I want to talk to Lisa first." Cordero nodded. "That can be arranged. But we need to reach the hospital. Every minute counts." As Marcus grabbed his keys, he realized he was about to make a choice that would haunt him forever. But seeing Danny's apparent medical crisis, he couldn't live with himself if his principles cost an innocent baby his life. The question remained, would he be saving Danny's life, or delivering him to his captors? At Whitefish Valley Hospital, Marcus found Elena in the waiting room along with Sheriff Martinez and 2 strangers, a middle-aged woman in a business suit and a younger man with federal bearing. "Mr. Thompson?" The woman showed her badge. I'm Agent Sarah Chun, FBI Crimes Against Children. This is Detective Riley. We need to speak about the child you found. Cordero tensed beside Marcus. Agent Chun, I'm Vincent Cordero, representing the medical team responsible for this child's care. Agent Chen's expression hardened. Mr. Cordero, you need to leave immediately. You're interfering with a federal investigation. The child will die without immediate intervention, Cordero insisted. The child will die if you get your hands on him. Agent Chen shot back. Mr. Thompson, everything this man told you is a lie. Marcus felt the ground shifting. What do you mean? Lisa Chun is my younger sister. She's been working undercover for the FBI, investigating an illegal human experimentation ring. Cordero's composure cracked. You're making serious accusations. I have recorded conversations, financial records, and medical documentation proving your organization conducts unauthorized genetic experiments on children. Agent Chen interrupted. Marcus stared at Cordero. The medical emergency. Fabricated. Danny is perfectly healthy. The genetic condition was invented to justify keeping him under medical supervision for research. Sheriff Martinez stepped forward. Mr. Cordero, you're under arrest. The emergency room doors burst open and Lisa Chen ran in, flanked by FBI agents. She was younger than Marcus expected, with the same determined expression as Agent Chen. Where's Danny? She called out frantically. Room 3. He's safe, Agent Chen said, embracing her sister. Lisa started toward the treatment rooms, but stopped when she saw Cordero. You bastard. You used my baby as bait. Dr. Patterson emerged with a puzzled expression. I need to speak with the child's mother. His blood tests show traces of sedatives that are wearing off. Everyone turned to Cordero, whose face had gone ashen. The seizure was induced, Agent Chen said coldly. You drugged that baby to make your story believable. Marcus felt rage building. When? The formula Lisa grabbed from her emergency stash. Agent Chen concluded. They found her hiding spot and contaminated it. Sheriff Martinez arrested Cordero as Lisa hurried to see Danny. Marcus followed, finding the baby sitting up in bed, alert and healthy. When Danny saw his mother, he reached out happily. I don't know how to thank you, Lisa said to Marcus over Danny's head. When I called in his location, I was terrified no one would stop. Marcus was confused. You called it in. We asked you to check the gas station, Sheriff Martinez explained. Left a message yesterday. Marcus remembered his broken answering machine. I never got it. Finding Danny was pure chance. Lisa shifted Danny and squeezed Marcus's hand. Maybe it was exactly what was supposed to happen. Agent Chen cleared her throat. Lisa, you'll need protective custody until we eliminate all threats. How long? Lisa asked, exhausted. Months, maybe longer. Marcus found himself speaking before thinking. What if they didn't have to hide? What if you stayed here in Whitefish? You'd have a real home, a community. Lisa stared at him. Marcus, you barely know us. Marcus looked at Danny, who was reaching toward him. Because this little guy changed my life in a few hours. Because you sacrificed everything for him. And because I think my ranch would be good for a family. Elena smiled. Marcus Thompson, you've surprised yourself. Agent Chen looked thoughtful. It might work. Small town. Lots of people who'd notice strangers. Lisa studied Marcus's face. Are you sure? It would completely change your life. Marcus thought about his empty house, his solitary routine. Then he looked at Danny, who had grabbed his finger with surprising strength. I'm sure. Someone's got to teach this kid about horses and fixing fences. The golden afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Thompson ranch as 5-year-old Danny raced through the pasture, his laughter echoing off the Montana hills. His dark hair caught the light as he chased after the border collie puppy that had become his constant companion, both of them weaving between the cattle with the fearless joy that only children possess. Danny, not too far. Lisa called from the porch of the ranch house, where she sat in a wooden rocking chair, her hand resting on her rounded belly. At 7 months pregnant, she moved more carefully these days, but her smile was radiant as she watched her son play. Marcus emerged from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag, his sheriff's badge glinting on his chest. The past 5 years had changed him. There were a few more lines around his eyes, but they were laugh lines now, carved by years of family dinners, bedtime stories, and quiet moments with the people he loved most. "How's our little cowboy doing?" Marcus asked, settling into the chair beside Lisa and reaching over to place his hand over hers on her belly. "Active, just like his big brother," Lisa replied, leaning into Marcus's touch. "The baby's been kicking all afternoon. I think he knows Danny's out there having fun without him." "He'll have plenty of time to run around these hills," Marcus said, his voice filled with the contentment of a man who had found his purpose. "Danny can teach him everything: how to ride, how to help with the cattle, how to fix fences." As if summoned by their conversation, Danny came running up to the porch, his cheeks flushed from exercise, the puppy, now named Scout, trailing behind him. "Dad, Mom, look what I found." Danny held up a smooth, round stone that had caught his attention. In the way of 5-year-olds, it was the most important discovery in the world. Marcus examined the stone with the same seriousness Danny brought to the moment. "That's a beauty, son. Where did you find it?" "By the old creek, near where you taught me to skip stones," Danny said, climbing onto Marcus's lap with the easy familiarity of a child who had never known anything but love and security. "Can we go fishing tomorrow? Scout wants to see how you catch trout." Lisa laughed. "I don't think Scout cares much about fishing, sweetheart." "He does too," Danny protested. "He told me so." Marcus ruffled his son's hair, because that's what Danny was now, in every way that mattered. The adoption papers had been finalized 3 years ago, but Danny had been calling him Dad since he was 2 years old, the word coming as naturally as breathing. "We can definitely go fishing tomorrow," Marcus said. "But first, you need to help me check on the new calves. Think you're up for that?" Danny's eyes lit up with excitement. At 5, he took his ranch responsibilities very seriously, following Marcus around like a shadow and absorbing every lesson about caring for animals and working the land. As father and son headed toward the barn, Scout bounding along beside them, Lisa watched them go with tears of happiness in her eyes. Sometimes she could hardly believe how much her life had changed since that terrifying morning when she'd made the desperate decision to leave Danny at the abandoned gas station. The trauma of those dark months seemed like a lifetime ago now. Vincent Cordero and his associates had been convicted and sentenced to long prison terms. The FBI's investigation had uncovered a network of illegal human experimentation that spanned multiple states, leading to the rescue of dozens of children and the shutdown of several underground research facilities. Lisa had testified at the trials, her voice strong and clear as she described the horrors she'd witnessed and the impossible choice she'd been forced to make to protect her son. The media had called her a hero, but she'd never felt like one. She'd felt like a mother doing what mothers do, whatever it takes to keep their children safe. The physical scars had healed quickly. The mark on Danny's back had faded to almost nothing, and Dr. Patterson had confirmed that he'd suffered no lasting effects from the sedatives or the trauma of his early months. But the emotional healing had taken longer, requiring patience, therapy, and the steady love of a family that had chosen each other. Elena Rodriguez appeared on the porch, carrying a casserole dish and wearing the expression of someone with news to share. "Hope I'm not interrupting," Elena called out, though she was already climbing the porch steps. "I brought dinner, and I have something to tell you." Lisa smiled. Elena had become more than a neighbor over the years. She was family, the kind of friend who showed up without being asked and always seemed to know when she was needed most. "You're never interrupting," Lisa said, gesturing to the chair Marcus had vacated. "What's your news?" Elena settled into the chair with the satisfaction of someone who loved being the bearer of good tidings. "I just got off the phone with Agent Chin. She wanted me to tell you that the last of Cordero's associates was sentenced today. 25 years, no possibility of parole." Lisa felt a weight. She didn't even realize she'd been carrying lift from her shoulders. "It's really over?" "It's really over," Elena confirmed. "Sarah said to tell you that you and Danny are officially free to live your lives without looking over your shoulders." From the barn came the sound of Danny's delighted laughter as Marcus showed him something. Probably a new calf, or maybe just the way the afternoon light caught the dust motes in the air. It was the sound of a child who knew he was safe, loved, and free to be exactly who he was meant to be. You know, Elena said thoughtfully, I remember that first day when Marcus brought Danny to you. How scared and uncertain everything was. Look at you now, married to the best man in Montana, another baby on the way, and Danny growing up happy and healthy. It's like something out of a fairy tale. Lisa laughed, but there was depth in her voice when she replied, Not a fairy tale. Fairy tales happen by magic. This happened because people chose to do the right thing, even when it was hard or dangerous. Marcus chose to stop and help a stranger's baby. You chose to drop everything and come help us. Sheriff Martinez chose to believe our story. Agent chose to fight for justice. And you chose to sacrifice everything to protect your son, Elena added gently. Any mother would have done the same. No, Elena said firmly. Not every mother would have had the courage to let go when holding on meant danger. Not every mother would have been strong enough to trust a stranger with the most precious thing in her life. Marcus and Danny returned from the barn, both of them dusty and happy. Danny was chattering excitedly about the new calf and how he'd help Marcus check its ears for signs of infection. Mom, the baby cow is so little, Danny announced. Dad says I can help name it. Can we call it Pebble? Like my rock. I think Pebble is a perfect name, Lisa said, pulling Danny close for a hug. As the sun began to set behind the western mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, the family gathered on the porch for Elena's casserole and the comfortable conversation of people who had weathered storms together and emerged stronger. Danny fell asleep in Marcus's lap as the adults talked, his small hand still clutching the smooth stone he'd found by the creek. Scout curled up at their feet, and the evening air filled with the sounds of cattle settling for the night and the distant call of an owl beginning its hunt. I've been thinking, Marcus said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, so as not to wake Danny, about that morning when I found him, about all the things that had to align perfectly for this to work out. My broken answering machine, taking that route to town, having bolt cutters in my truck. Divine intervention? Elena suggested with a smile. Maybe, Marcus replied. Or maybe sometimes the universe conspires to put the right people in the right place at exactly the right time. Lisa reached over and took his free hand. I used to think that morning was the worst day of my life. Leaving Danny there, not knowing if anyone would stop, not knowing if I'd ever see him again. But now I think it might have been the best day of my life, because it led us here. To this porch, Marcus agreed. To this family, Lisa added. To this moment, Elena concluded. As the stars began to appear in the darkening Montana sky, Marcus carried the sleeping Danny inside to bed, Scout trailing behind them. Lisa and Elena sat in comfortable silence, listening to the gentle sounds of a father tucking his son in for the night, the soft voices, the rustle of blankets, the quiet closing of a bedroom door. When Marcus returned to the porch, he found Lisa and Elena looking out at the vast expanse of ranch land that stretched toward the horizon. What are you thinking about? He asked, settling back into his chair. The future, Lisa said simply. Danny starting school in the fall, the new baby, maybe expanding the ranch. Normal things. Wonderful, ordinary, normal things. The best kind of things, Marcus agreed. Later that night, after Elena had gone home and the dishes were done, Marcus and Lisa stood in Danny's doorway, watching their son sleep. The nightlight cast gentle shadows on his peaceful face, and Scout was curled up on the rug beside the bed, standing guard even in sleep. Do you think he'll remember any of it? Lisa asked quietly. The fear, the uncertainty, those first few months? Marcus considered the question. Maybe some of it, but not the way we remember it. For him, the story will be about the day his dad found him and brought him home, the day his real life began. Our real lives, Lisa corrected. They moved to their own bedroom, where Lisa settled into bed with a contented sigh. Marcus sat on the edge of the mattress, removing his sheriff's badge and placing it on the nightstand. Any regrets? Lisa asked, a question she'd posed many times over the years, always receiving the same answer. Marcus looked at the badge, thinking about the career he'd found, the community he served, the family he'd gained. Then he looked at his wife, beautiful in the lamplight, carrying their second child. "Only one," he said, leaning over to kiss her forehead. "What's that?" "That I can't go back and thank the man I used to be for making the choice to stop that morning, for being brave enough to cut that chain and change all our lives forever." As they settled into sleep, the ranch quiet around them except for the gentle sounds of night, the wind through the pines, the distant lowing of cattle, the soft breathing of a child safe in his bed, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A threatening note had read, "Feed if you dare," meant to discourage compassion. Instead, it had issued the greatest challenge of his life, to open his heart to love when love seemed dangerous, to choose hope when fear seemed wiser, to build a family from the fragments of broken lives. He had dared to feed a hungry child, and in return, that child had fed his soul. Danny had brought not just joy and purpose to Marcus's life, but the love of an extraordinary woman and the promise of more children to come. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, cattle to tend, cases to solve as sheriff, a growing family to nurture and protect. But tonight, as Marcus drifted off to sleep beside the woman he loved, listening to the peaceful sounds of his sons breathing down the hall, he knew with absolute certainty that he had found what every person searches for: home. The abandoned gas station where this story began had long since been torn down, replaced by a small park where children played and families gathered for picnics. A bronze plaque near the playground told the story of Danny's rescue and the family it had created, inspiring other acts of kindness and courage. But the real monument to that day wasn't made of bronze or stone. It was made of love, built one day at a time by people who understood that the most important moments in life often come disguised as the most ordinary choices. The choice to stop, the choice to help, the choice to love.